How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998. So that's been a quarter of a century now. I've been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close friends say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I have now written over 130 articles and recorded over 30 hours of VMware vSphere 7 and 8 videos for Experts Exchange, and received 40 Expert Exchange awards over the last 11 years working with the Expert Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011, and I'm currently a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 4 years. And welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. So sit back, grab a coffee and watch, because this is probably going to take us about 30 minutes. Excuse me, still got that 100-day cough. And I've been wanting to revisit this particular topic for a long time now. And what I'm going to show you today is how we actually use VMware Converter, or its proper name, VMware vCenter Converter Standalone, to synchronize changes when we're completing a P2V or a V2V. Now, I wrote this article, and I'll put this in the description, over 10 years ago, and it's still very valid today. And I have seen a few questions today that come up on Experts Exchange, where organizations are moving workloads from Hyper-V to VMware or Azure to VMware, or anywhere you like, any hosted, any workload, virtual or physical, to a VMware environment. But one of the caveats that they have is that they want to ensure that whilst they do this conversion, that they maintain an uptime, because this particular workload that they're converting is important to their business, or they need it 24/7. And VMware vCenter Converter Standalone can provide this function. Now, it is a free product. There are much better third-party products available that do a better job, but they're going to cost you some money. And I will actually show you one of those products later that handles conversions, physical or virtual, with very little downtime. But today we're going to have a little look at VMware Converter for short. And I say, I have written an article 10 years ago that we're gonna follow roughly. So the first thing I need to do is connect to the machine that I'm going to do the conversion on. And this is a particular machine here that we're using in the lab. Now, this machine happens to be in a different part of the network here than our lab environment. So it's almost sort of kind of simulating doing a conversion across a wire that has some sort of kind of latency built in. And we have throttled down the link here between these two labs to sort of kind of simulate a slower link. Now, I often recommend, if you're going to do any VMware vCenter Converter conversion, P2V or V2V, the very first thing you do is install VMware Converter on the machine to do the conversion. You're going to get into less issues with permissions and security if you actually install VMware vCenter Converter Standalone actually on the machine you want to convert. So I've already done this, and I don't really think that you need a video showing you how to actually click next to install the software. So I'm using the latest software available, which is now 6.4, that has been created and updated very recently. So I'm just going to basically double click. If you've used VMware vCenter Converter Standalone before, you will be familiar with this. And one of the things I'm going to do, I'm just going to click convert machine. This is a local machine. I can click view source details. That will basically tell us that this is a Windows Server 2019 machine. It's got 90 gig of disk, shows you the layout. It's worth clicking view source details, because if VMware Converter has an issue in converting a machine, if it can't identify the machine, it will give you an error in converting it. So just click view source details, and if it can come up with the source details very quickly, then you shouldn't really have many issues. So we'll click close. So yes, I want to convert this local machine, so I'm going to click next. I'm going to convert it to our vCenter Server 7 infrastructure. So VMware Infrastructure Virtual Machine here. And if I, and we'll go back and we'll have a little look at vCenter Server 7 in a minute. So I'm going to give it the username and password, and I'm just using the administrator account in vSphere local at the moment. And its password, followed by next. I'm going to ignore the certificate warning, so I'm going to just tick do not. I'm going to ignore. Excuse me. And now we're going to give it a name. So this particular machine at the moment, and I'll just show you, it's running Internet Information Server with PHP, just because really I'm a fan of PHP rather than ASP. So just got a little PHP code running, telling us what the name of the server is, showing us the host IP address of the server, which is 136.105. My IP address is 136.80, so I'm actually on the same LAN as it. But we're actually going to migrate this or convert this to our lab, which is on 192.168.182. So yes, I'm happy with the name, the web. And the reason I've called it the web really is homage to a song by Marillion, written by Fish, Derek Dick. Okay, so the web.cyrus-consultant, so I'm going to click next. I'm going to put it on our vSAN data store. I'm going to use the hardware version 19. I'm going to put it in our cluster, and I'm going to let DRS sort out where it's going to place that. I'm not really bothered, although it does actually sort of kind of suggest it's going to be on number 7. So I'm going to click next. Now, this is normally where you would just basically click next and finish, and you would do your conversion. One thing that we need to change if we're doing a synchronization is we need to tell the software that we want to do a synchronization. I don't want to perform the final synchronization yet, because I actually want to show you how we can actually make changes on our source machine, and those will actually get replicated to our destination machine. And I'm not actually going to use any post conversion yet either. So synchronize changes, run immediately after cloning. We could use the schedule option, but I'm not going to use the schedule option. I'm actually going to be here doing it. So I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click finish. And hopefully that's going to submit a job, and that's actually going to start running, and that's actually going to start doing our conversion. Now, the first part of the job or the process is it will complete a standard physical to virtual or virtual to virtual conversion. That's the first chunk. So if you were in an environment where you needed this server to be up 24/7, you could do this initial conversion at any time of the day, because the actual conversion is done in the background using the shadow snapshots and backups. So it's not really going to cause a great deal of performance degradation on the source machine that you're doing the conversion. So you can do the conversion initially anytime that you actually basically want to do it. It doesn't really matter how long. It's telling us there that it's 2 minutes, but as this status increases from 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, that is likely to decrease, although that says it's increasing there. But anyway, but the estimated time remaining doesn't really make any difference on the first initial, if you want to call it, seed of your environment. So there's nothing more for me to do at the moment than just wait for that to complete. So I'm going to disappear. I'm going to grab a coffee. I'm going to finish my smoothie, and we'll come back once the conversion's completed, and we'll start talking about the actual final synchronizations that we're going to do to our migrated physical server. So I'm going to disappear, and I'll come back shortly. Okay, I'm back. I'll speed up that 48 minutes in post, but you may have noticed that the average transfer rate for that P2V was under 10 megabits a second, because deliberately in the lab here, what we have is we have two Cisco routers back to back, connected via a clock box. I'm told, I'm reading here, clock box. Anyway, we have two routers here connected back to back with a clock box in between, which actually simulates a WAN link. And that WAN link is, excuse me, that WAN link has been set to simulate a 10 meg WAN link, to show you that it is possible to P2V via a low latency link, providing that you give it the time. So our P2V has completed. You will see that there, it says completed. And then you'll probably notice that immediately after the P2V completes, another job is started with a little, I would call it synchronization, or a little circle job, which actually indicates that that's a synchronization job. So the P2V basically just copies everything from the source to the destination. And the moment that that's actually completed, a synchronization job is then run to basically capture any changes that have occurred. And that's what's now running. When that's finished, what we can do is we can, if I just go back to our vCenter server environment in the lab here, you will see that we have the web-cyrus-consultants.co.uk. And if I just refresh that there, you can see that that website's still working. So at the moment, the changes are being copied to that virtual machine now. And those are the changes that have occurred in the last 40 something minutes. Okay, so that's now completed. So that's a synchronization job that's run after the main P2V job has run, which has seeded the environment, and that now basically has done the final synchronization. So what we can do for shits and giggles really is we can actually power up that virtual machine in our lab. Now this isn't going to conflict, because this is a separate lab, separate IP address range to the physical server, which is on a different network range here. The physical server is on 141 and our lab is on 192. So there's no, I don't have an issue here in the lab of any conflict, but we can certainly see hopefully when this virtual machine starts, we can see whether or not that the conversion has done its job at the moment. Okay, so it's obviously started. I can see there's an IP address issue there. Now I think that's because I noticed earlier that I have actually selected the wrong network here, so I'm just actually going to place that on VM network, which has DHCP running, so that should pick up an IP address in the range 192.168.182.105. okay, so now we can actually basically go back and we can start doing some synchronization again. Now, something I was actually going to mention, you doing a P2V. P2Vs, if they're going to fail, often fail in the first 1 to 5%, or they'll fail in the last 96, 97 and above. They don't often fail in the middle. If they fail in the middle, that's usually because you've either got a network fault or there's an error on the disk that you're trying to do the P2V on. If they fail at the beginning, there's a configuration issue or a permission issue. If they fail at the end, it's because of maybe an unsupported OS. Now, the reason I mention this is because synchronization in VMware Converter only works on block level cloning. It does not work on file level cloning. Now, I mention this because if you have a server, Windows server, or even a Windows server, or maybe a workstation that's using UEFI as boot, you will find that a P2V can complete the process of that because it will do file level cloning on the UEFI partitions, but it can't synchronize the changes from those UEFI partitions. So you can't use synchronization on servers or workstations that are using UEFI, and you need to look at a different product to do that. And we'll look at another video with another product, a third-party product called is Zerto, and we'll use Zerto to create a synchronization job or replication job of Windows Server 2022 that uses UEFI boot. So if I now actually basically select go to job, now we can do right click and I can say synchronize. So we can manually now create a sync job. But one of the things I do need to make sure is that virtual machine is powered on. So just say hard stop. Okay, so that is powered off. So I'm going to go back now, and at the moment I'm just actually going to say synchronize immediately, and all that's going to do now is the changes in that virtual machine that I can finish. So the changes in that virtual machine that have occurred since the last synchronization job are now going to be replicated through to that virtual machine. So what I really would suggest is that once you've actually done your original seed and followed up by the first synchronization job, which is completed for you automatically, you then have a little think about when you actually want to do the cutover from your source machine to your destination machine on premise, and it can be scheduled, and depending upon how long you've left it between synchronizations is going to affect how quickly it's going to basically do the synchronization, and obviously how busy that virtual machine, that physical machine, is as well. So if that physical machine is a file server and it's been basically serving files all day and it's got lots of traffic, then you will sort of kind of find that your synchronization time is going to be left. So I'm going to wait for this to do the synchronization. Then what I'm actually going to do on the physical machine is that I'm actually going to just check to see whether or not that there's any updates. And it's still sort of kind of thinking about it here. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go off here now, and I'm just going to... Okay, so there is one update there. So I'm going to say install that now. And I'm going to say check for updates. I think there was a question that came up on Experts Exchange that sort of kind of asked, do I need to do the final synchronization? Technically, yes, because the final synchronization actually basically closes the job off and shuts the job down so that you can't actually basically do any more synchronizations. So yes, you do have to do the final synchronization, because the final synchronization will also allow you to install VMware tools as well as one of the last things that you actually do. So yes, perform the final sync. Just don't leave your virtual machine hanging there. So I'm just going to basically okay, so there's no more updates, and I'm just going to wait for this synchronization to finish. Okay, so our synchronization's finished. What I actually wanted to show you is this is a web server which is currently running here. And I actually wanted to log on to that server. And if we actually basically look in the www root, then you can see that I've got an index.php and I've got an index.new. And so to simulate changes that are occurring in the machine that we're trying to P2V with the synchronization option, then I'm going to replace our index.php. So I'm just going to basically change that to index.back, and I'm just going to rename our our copy, and I'm just going to change that to index.php. I'm going to check that that is working. Yeah, okay, so that is working correctly. And I'm going to go back to my host, and I'm going to do another synchronization job. Go to job, synchronize. Next, followed by finish. So that synchronization job is now running, and that's now capturing those changes. And then once I've actually completed this synchronization job, then I'm going to complete another synchronization job, and I'm going to close the process by saying that this is the final synchronization job. So our synchronization job is completed. So I'm now going to select go to job, and now this time this is going to be the last synchronization job that I do. So effectively now we're going to cut over to our new machine on premise that's been converted from physical source or for Azure or Hyper-V. So I'm now going to edit the options. I could schedule this, but I'm going to say perform a final synchronization, and I'm also going to say power on the destination machine when that's completed. I don't want to customize the guest preferences. I don't want to install VMware tools at this time. So I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click finish, and that's it. I will no longer be able to synchronize after this. That's actually going to start synchronizing, and if we wait over here, that's actually going to power on that server. So the virtual machine has been automatically powered up on our vCenter server 7, the web-cyrus-consultants.co.uk. It's received an IP address 192.168.182.105, and if I go to that website, then you can see the same website again, but let me draw your attention to the host IP address is now 192.168.182.105. So we have successfully P2V'd a server running Internet Information Server from one network via a simulated WAN at 10 meg. We're still on the 141.245 network, and this is the website that was actually on the other server. So that's all I've actually got to show you in this video as to how to synchronize changes when completing a P2V or a V2V with VMware vCenter Converter Standalone, to give it its full title, or VMware Converter. And as you may have seen there, I'd just like to draw your attention to the EE Core Conference on October the 2nd to October the 4th, of course, of which I will be attending. So if you want to pop along to the Core Conference and chat, if you really want to, VMware, or beekeeping or anything else, then I will be there between October the 2nd and October the 4th. And my Stream Deck is actually telling me that it's 42 days, I think, until I land, because I am actually landing slightly early. Okay, so thanks so much for watching this video. I will string it all together and I will speed it all up in post. But I hope that answers many questions about how to use the synchronization option, which I think is often a forgotten option within VMware Converter that's not used a great deal. Of course, it is a free product. It does have its limitations. It can only do the synchronization option on block changes. It cannot do synchronization on file-based changes. So if you were trying to do conversions with the synchronization option of a UEFI configured server, 2016, 2019, 2022 now, UEFI is now the default. You're going to struggle with VMware Converter. But come back and have a little look where we use a third-party utility called Zerto, which can handle those changes. That is a third-party product, which obviously does require you to hand over some Wonga. Okay, again, thanks so much for watching these videos, and come back soon and watch another Hancock's VMware half hour. Thank you very much.